ain't got no boundaries to hold me back. Boundaries is what I lack. Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Conflation Station. Hop on board the next train out, and let's take a ride to a place where anything's possible.
Hello and welcome to the Conflation Station. My name is Hugo Yorway, and I'll be your tour guide for today's podcast, including political commentary, conspiracy theories, and some cool music from the Electric Glove Orchestra. At the Conflation Station, our team of creative writers and novice journalists combine elements of irony, satire, and pure absurdity to create insightful political commentary and homespun conflated conspiracy theories taken from today's news headlines. In the first segment of our show, known as the 14th Circuit, or what I like to call the Court of Public Opinion, renowned raconteur the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield shares his unfiltered and unhinged views about America's constitutional, or shall I say, unconstitutional crisis. His topic this week is Civil War. Rusty, the microphone is all yours.
Well, thank you, Hugo. Lots of folks I've been talking with thinks this here U.S. of A. is heading towards a civil war. They tells me that as a nation, we's in a constitutional crisis and we's just too damn polarized in our viewpoints to dial things back any. You got your leftist radicals on one side of the equation, and on the other, you got your gun-carrying Bible thumpers. They's calls themselves Trumpers. And like oil and water, the two, well, they just don't mix nohow. This country's already in a culture war. We's already in an ideological war. So why not a civil war? Ain't that the next logical step? So in my spare time, in between doing my auto mechanicing work, doing oil changes and prepping up for my weekly sermons at the church, I've been given to do some thinking about the concept of civil war and have asked myself to ponder the following question. What might a civil war look like in our modern-day, post-pandemic, technological, AI-generating society? There's a lot to think about when it comes to pondering this here question, but here's where I'm at on this here topic of civil war as of today. But first, I need to backpedal a little and remind myself why these here United States fought a civil war in the first place way back in those good old 1860s. You see, back then, the USA had two different types of economies. In the South, they had an agricultural economy based on growing cotton. And in order to keep their economy a-running, they needed slaves. And in the North, they was moving right quickly towards an industrial economy based on factories producing lots of stuff made from iron and steel. And at some point, these two different economies diverged so much they clashed. Now, ain't that turn of a phrase ironical? This done created one great big ideological schism between the North and the South. And now, to exacerbate that there problem, this here country was still expanding westward towards California, and there was a great debate about them their new states and whether or not they'd be recognized as free states, like the industrial North with no slaves, or whether or not they'd be admitted as slave states, like those states in the agricultural South. Well, the long and short of it is this. Them their slave states in that their South got pretty damn tired of the North continuing to limit the growth of its agricultural economy. So they just picked up these bags and they left these here United States and started their own union. They called it the Confederacy. They even got themselves their own president, a feller named Jefferson Davis, and raised their own army under the leadership of a general named Robert E. Lee. He was one of them West Point fellers. Next thing you know, there was a full-blown war with blood and guts spilled out across the entire country. As uncivil as it was, for some strange reason, they called it the Civil War. Must have been a way to soft sell it as a marital spat to them there Europeans who was watching the developments from across the pond. Imagine, brother a fighting brother, brother a killing brother. It was the ugliest divorce one had ever seen. If I had been doing my preaching back then, I would have been stricken with grief beyond compare, knowing that the good book preaches killing is a sin. Anywho, after that there Civil War was fought and all was said and done, 620,000 souls was lost. Back then, that was equal to about 2% of the total population of these here United States. As a student of history, I can say that these here United States ain't never been the same since that there Civil War was fought. Our country, once divided along geopolitical lines, has never been the same again. You know, sort of like trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together. Now, I don't reckon we's going to have a civil war quite like the one we had back in the 1860s. In our modern day, post-pandemic AI-driven society, I don't reckon that American blood is going to be spilled on battlefields like Gettysburg, even though Gettysburg is in one of them there battleground states, you know, Pennsylvania. This here new civil war ain't going to be a regional economic war. It's going to be an ideological war based on partisan politics. It's also going to be a religious war like them there Crusades was. The question this here 21st century civil war is going to answer is this. Are we as a great nation going to remain a democracy? You know, a representative republic, of course. Or is we going to fall into the hands of a dictatorship under that Donald Trump feller and his league of loyal, obedient, and corrupt followers? Now, in this newfangled civil war, we's going to have plenty of cyber warfare using AI to shut down power grids and other critical infrastructure, and indestructible robots like they was in that their Terminator 2 movie. And those states that's got the technology is the states that's going to win this war too, just like the last one. States like New York, California, and Massachusetts is going to line up against states like Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi. This war is going to be fought between the cyber states of America and the goober states of America. And if yous ain't on one side or the other, you's going to have to choose right quick. And in them states in which Trump has already deployed the military, the choosing will be pretty easy. This damn war is going to be just like one of them sci-fi thrillers they make in Hollywood. You know what? Come to think of it, after all this talking, I changed my mind. I don't think it's going to be like an old-fashioned civil war after all. I think it's going to be more like the good old American Revolution that was fought against them British in 1776. A full-blown revolution, you know, like the fight for freedom that led to the French Revolution in 1789 and the Russian Revolution in 1917. So let's stop talking about civil war. Let's talk about revolution. We's going to have a revolution. That would sure get them their constitutional scholars' panties in an uproar. So as I sit here by my lonesome self today at the Conflation Station, that's how things look like they shaping up. Say your prayers. And now, as I say at the end of each of my weekly sermons, if you and me put our pretty little heads together, we may still be able to figure out how to get this here US of A back on track. Thank y'all for listening.
Rusty Stubblefield is an unemployed certified auto mechanic and deacon at the Church of Our Lady of Original Sin. And now it's time to take our weekly musical journey with the inimitable Electric Love Orchestra featuring Rusty Stubblefield on vocals in an original piece written by the world-renowned composer E. Dudex entitled History Lesson. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with this week's Conflated Conspiracy Theories.
I don't need no history lesson. Something straight out of the past. Nobody wants a history lesson. Something straight out of the past. Let me give you
Thank you, Rusty, E. Dude X, and the Electric Love Orchestra for creating that musical masterpiece, available online at Bearberry Path Music. In our next segment of the podcast, we'll be sharing various homegrown conspiracy theories that have been developed by our staff of creative writers and novice journalists who believe first and foremost that at the Conflation Station, anything is possible. We invite you, our listeners, to share your own homegrown conspiracy theories by sending an email to bearberrypathmusic, one word, at gmail.com. That's bearberrypathmusic, one word, at gmail.com. And place the words conspiracy theory in the subject line. We would love to hear from you, our listeners. Today, our reporting will focus on the second coming of Christ and TV late-night talk show hosts. Our lead story this week focuses on the second coming of Christ. It's been a little over a week since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and he is already being compared to Jesus Christ, being called a martyr, a savior, the Messiah, and a deliverer. The Conflation Station's Vatican press corps just confirmed that Kirk will be canonized by Pope Leo XIV on Christmas Day 2025 to coincide with the birth of Jesus. Baby Jesus figurines will soon be stocked in Walmarts across the country, featuring a likeness of Charlie Kirk's adult face. And the Macy's Christmas Day Parade is planning to have a special Charlie Kirk float, called the Charlie Claus float, to lead the festivities down Fifth Avenue. Because of his role as Captain Kirk on Star Trek, acclaimed actor and celebrity William Shatner will play the role of Charlie Kirk. In a related story, our team of novice journalists stationed in Israel have received reports that Charlie Kirk was sighted in and around Jerusalem, causing widespread speculation that Kirk has already risen from the grave. There have been no similar reports coming out of Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, quote, "If we locate Charlie Kirk, we will immediately deport him to the United States," end quote. There have also been several conflicting reports that Kirk has already been resurrected in the U.S., and is employed as an instructor at the Perkins School for the Blind in Boston. Other Kirk sightings in the U.S. include him working at a dermatology clinic in Manhattan, delivering food to homeless shelters in Philadelphia, working as a surfing instructor in Hawaii, and being on patrol duty as a DEA agent at the Mexican border. Unlike Jesus, Charlie Kirk was the product of a natural childbirth. However, there are religious skeptics who believe that this might not be true. In an effort to verify the validity of this claim, our team of novice reporters did an exhaustive search of Mormon birth records and indeed could not find a link between Charlie Kirk's DNA and the DNA of his father. According to leading genetic researchers at the Mayo Clinic, the only explanation for such a rare occurrence would be a miracle like the Immaculate Conception. In other comparisons between Kirk and Jesus, it has been noted that, unlike Jesus being blue-eyed with blonde hair, Kirk's eyes were brown, giving credence to the fact that Jesus was actually a black man and not a fair-skinned white man. Finally, Kirk's followers at Turning Point are currently in discussion to rename the movement from Turning Point to either Charlianity or Kirktholicism. To date, no final decision has been made. And now it's time to take another short musical break to listen to another original piece composed by E. Dude X and performed by Rusty Stubblefield and the Electric Love Orchestra, entitled The Pendulum Swings. Stay tuned and we'll be right back with another conflated conspiracy theory.
You know religious fanatics are on the verge of attack. He's carrying Jesus Christ our Savior in their red backpacks. You know the army is a marching, going left, right, left. Yeah. He's got their automatic weapons and a killing in these hands. The pendulum swings.
Thank you, boys and girls. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Remember, the Electric Love Orchestra's complete catalog is available online at Bearberry Path Music. Our next story focuses on the fate of late-night TV talk show hosts. Now that Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel have been shown the door at their respective TV networks for including questionable content in their monologues. What? Kimmel's back? Colbert never left? My, how quickly the pendulum swings these days. Well, this was supposed to leave only two late-night network TV talk show hosts standing, Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers. In an effort to combat comic crime in America, the Trump team, working in conjunction with the Department of Justice, is in the process of developing a highly specialized satiric terrorist strike force, STSF for short, in which FBI agents will be deployed to comedy clubs throughout the United States to catch and capture comedians in the act of making what may be perceived as negative statements about President Trump. Any comedy club found harboring comedians who violate the Satiric Sedition Act, known as the SSA for short, will have its business license permanently revoked. Individual comedians who are found in violation of the act will be given a 5-year mandatory prison sentence, in which they will have their minds reprogrammed to elicit only positive statements about Donald Trump in their comedy routines. For example, a routine may include a chicken crossing the road joke, such as, "Why did the chicken cross the road?" "I don't know. Why?" "Why? To see Donald Trump, of course." This joke has been deemed completely appropriate now that the price of eggs has dropped. A select group of FBI agents will receive specialized training as, quotes, hecklers, to create tactical distractions within an audience should a comedian's routine cast President Trump in a negative light. According to sources within the Department of Justice, agents will be conducting unannounced 1920-style speakeasy raids of comedy clubs. The Department of Justice has also announced plans to develop a new federal code of regulations known as the Uniform Joke Code. The code is currently being written by ChatGPT. A newly established division of the Department of Justice known as the Comedy Code Compliance Committee will be responsible for its enforcement. When asked about these new regulations, Jimmy Fallon commented, "Is this a joke?" To which Seth Meyers quipped, "You must be kidding." All kidding aside, at the Conflation Station, we are staunch advocates of the First Amendment, in particular, protected speech in the form of political satire. There was a time, in the not-so-distant past, when unlike our thin-skinned current president, past presidents understood the value of political satire in our great American society. Perhaps former President Lyndon B. Johnson captured it best when he said, quote, "It is part of the price of leadership of this great and free nation to be the target of clever satirists. You," referring to the Smothers Brothers at the time, "you have given the gift of laughter to our people. May we never grow so somber or so self-important that we fail to appreciate the humor in our lives." End quote. President Johnson's quote strikes a stark contrast with that of current President Donald Trump, who believes that anyone who speaks against him, even if in jest, should be censored or censured.
Well, we've reached our destination. We'll be back next week to pick you up for yet another journey to and from the Conflation Station.